Okay, so first Franny kind of mentioned surveying, and we're gonna have kits for you to take home, so you can survey your property whenever, but I just want to mention a little, like, when to do it and how to do it, so we make sure everybody can get a pretty good idea of what's going on with the property. The best time to survey is probably right about now. It's like late afternoon, or you want to do it in the morning. The ants don't like being out in the really hot sun, like around lunchtime. Nobody likes to be walking around in like the blazing sun in the middle of the day. And that, or if it's raining, because normally once it starts to rain, they kind of hide until the rain stops. So we want kind of sunny, overcast morning or afternoon to survey is the best time. Not to say they won't come out at any other time, but that's you'll get the best results that way. And another thing is we want to make sure we get, like, we want to check around our house, see if there's any place they're trying to get in, and are on the border of your property. Then you can say, okay, my neighbor on this side, or the empty lot on this side, or whatever, has ants and this side doesn't. Then you can kind of get an idea of where they possibly could be coming from. Some other hotspot areas you want to be checking for is any kind of tree, whether it be fruit tree or ornamental tree, potted plants, or even if it's empty pots. Like if you used to have potted plants and you don't anymore, so you just got to stack up old pots somewhere. Like they really like those too. Rock walls or a vegetable garden. Pretty much any kind of plant or plant material in your yard. Anything that provides some shade and moisture is a good place for them to nest. So just kind of check all over your yard. And I think Franny mentioned it, once you get those ants, after half an hour to an hour, you can pick them up, put them back in the plastic bag, and stick it in the freezer overnight to kill them. And don't, like, if you want them ID'd, try not to smush them, because then it's really hard to tell what the ant is after it's smushed. You can either, we got the mailings from us. Like, I think our contact should be on a lot of the handouts we have. If you want to mail it, or if you're just going to stop by a kilo, you can leave it at our office and then I'll ID it for you. Just make sure if you are mailing it, leave your name and some kind of contact info, whether it's an email or a phone number, so I can call you back and be like, oh yeah, this is what you have, or you don't have fire ants or whatnot. If you just send me the ant sample, I'm not going to know who to call after that to let them know what's going on. Is there any question about survey before I move on? Everybody's good? And one other thing I wanted to mention about the pesticides is their shelf life. A lot of times, even, like I know a bunch of people who buy the Andro or buy the Siesta, and they're like, oh yeah, I used it, and then they buy the big container because like, oh, his bulk is cheaper. But what happens is those granulars have a kind of a short shelf life. So they only last maybe like 1 to 2 months. So what happens is you only want to either only buy enough the amount you can use for 2 months, or if you do buy the big one, there's multiple people who's going to be using it, because after the 2 months it's unattractive and the ants don't even bother going to it at that point. And one other thing to know, the Tango can be used if it starts drizzling, because we come across that a lot. It's like, oh, okay, it looks like it's going to rain, should we not treat? If it's just a light drizzle, it's fine, but if it starts dumping rain, then the bait is going to wash off the trees and everything we sprayed it on. So not too good for the rain. And the granular, once it gets wet, even if it rained that morning or the night before, the ground is wet, because the corn gets dry, it soaks up a lot of moisture, and then it becomes unattractive. So if you're using the granulars, you want it to be really, really dry, which is hard considering we live in Kilo.
So what kind of sprayer do we use?
There's on the Hawaii Ant Lab's website, if you're treating a big property, they have the brands they tested. Like I know Jack Toe for the backpack sprayers are really good. You just want to make sure you change out the nozzle, because we don't want a light mist. We want like a stream, because it's kind of gooey. So if it's a actual spray, not a stream, it'll just get clogged. And if for smaller properties, the Zep bottles, it's like this blue and yellow bottle, you can buy it from Home Depot, and I'm not sure if BIISC has it. I know Home Depot for sure. We use those the most, because they spray really well. They get up to like 15 feet and everything, and it's just a little spray bottle. I think it's about $3 something, almost $4 for one. But the other thing about Tango is once you, in the concentrate, in its original container by itself, it'll last for probably a few years. But once you mix it into the gel bait, that has to be used like within that day or the next day. So say you're mixing up your Tango in the morning and it suddenly starts to rain. You want to use it by the next morning. Because what happens is the oil and the water start to become rancid and it goes bad, and the ants don't like it once it goes bad. So by itself it'll last pretty long, but then the Tango mixture, the peanut butter oil and all that has to be used relatively quickly. Now, you guys have any questions?
Even with the vouchers, what is the cost you're looking at? What?
I want to say if you're looking at Tango, the pesticide itself does cost a lot, but normally, depending on the container, it'll go for a couple to up to 40 treatments. So it's per treatment, which is, I'm going to say about 1 acre is 1 gallon of treatment, or to treat. And then 1 gallon of that, of Tango, comes out to about $16. But then your upfront cost is going to be way higher than that because you have to buy all your ingredients, all the pesticide. If you buy, of course, the smaller container, it goes up to maybe $20-something for Tango. As for the granulars, anywhere from like, I want to say $13 to $19 per treatment. So that's about £1.50 pounds per acre. So of course, if you have smaller lots, it'll go farther than that.
So the granule is the siesta?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, siesta, amdro, and some other things. And we are on the calendar we're giving out. It'll have for siesta, it'll be in red, and it'll say indoxacarb, metafluozone, and hydromethanol. Yeah, not or something like that. Sorry, I was on vacation. I forgot all these big words. So those are the ones that are going to be toxicant baits. So it might have a different name, but if you see any of those active ingredients that's on our calendar, it's going to be okay. This is a toxicant. And another thing that happens because siesta, amdro are all granulars, but there's also a Talstar, which is the barrier that comes in granular. So we want to make sure whenever you buy any of these, you want to read the label, because the Talstar will say once you put this out, you want to spray it with water or wait till it rains to activate that, to kind of spread it around and make that barrier. But on the other end, like I mentioned earlier, the siesta, the amdro, it's going to say keep it dry. So you want to make sure you're reading, make sure what's going on.
So the Tango is good for fruit trees?
Yes, Tango is pretty much the only thing good for fruit trees. There is a granular called Ultraben, which is only good for citrus and nut trees. So if you have a papaya tree or a banana tree, it's not good for it. Not to say that if you had accidentally thrown amdro or something under your orange tree, it's bad. It's just that these companies would need to pay like millions of dollars to do all the testing to see what would happen. But it doesn't have any effect on the plants or us if we like consume that orange or the banana. Because what happens is once you get the pesticide out there, after maybe a couple hours, it'll pretty much dissipate or evaporate and be gone. So it doesn't translocate, meaning it doesn't seep into the soil and into the plant. So none of that happens. That's why even if it doesn't, so if you accidentally had put that toxicant bait or something into the fruit trees, you're still going to be safe. But it's against the label, so you technically can't do that. And one other thing to mention, I said like it's so hard to plan right here when it rains all the time. As long as we put our bait out there and it's been maybe 4 or 6 hours of good weather and then it pours rain, you're still okay. Because they had that 4 hours or 6 hours to get the bait. Because like when you survey, if you have a lot of ants, you notice they'll be there in like 10 minutes or so. And that's all it really takes. We just want to give them that time to get the pesticide. So as long as they get a couple hours, we're good. Somebody had a question?
So you're talking about direct application to the fruit trees, to my food. Do I still get maintain my organic status by using all of these chemicals?
Unfortunately, none of these are organic, and there's nothing so far that's been tested that can be organic. So I know spinosad has been thrown around. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but there's nothing. There's no label that says you can use this as a bait. I think the Hawaii Anna might be looking into it. I'm not sure, but there's no label or anything that says here's your organic pesticide. So far there's nothing really for that.
I went to the farmer's co-op in Hilo and I buy siesta and use that. But I was instructed to those fire ant bombs where I don't actually put any of this onto my food or into the soil. We use peanut butter, put it in plastic water bottles, hang it around, and move it around. That way nothing ever gets into the plant. I've been finding some success, but
Okay, that would be. I'll talk a little bit about that.
yeah.
So that would be considered a bait station. So what happens is, it does work in some cases, but normally you would need a bunch of bait stations, like to cover more places. Because say if you have 100 granulars in that bottle, there's only one chance for the ants to come across those 100, whereas if I spread that 100 granulars, there's 100 different times the ants will come across it. So if you do want, because some people like the bait stations, it's just more labor and more time, because you have to put it out, you took them out, and then collect it again later and clean it out and refill it and everything, which is fine if you have a lot of time, but it's much easier to broadcast. But for organic, and there's unfortunately nothing for now that can be used for the fire ants. Oh, by the way, if you guys are, I'm answering all you guys' questions, but if you need to leave, feel free to leave, and we have handouts on the table for you guys. But if you have questions or you just want to listen, feel free to stick around.
So you mix the mango into the peanut butter and the ants will carry the peanut butter?
What happens is they'll suck up the oils and everything, and the oil inside because the pesticide is mixed into all that everything, so they'll suck up the liquid or the oils, and then that's what will go back. They might physically pick up like the granulars and things like that, but they don't have to. So let's say like if you spread your granulars, like you came back and they're all still there, that doesn't mean it didn't work, because they just need to suck up liquid. So from like the peanut butter, they'll just suck it up and then move on. They're not gonna like scrape up the peanut butter or anything. Any other questions? You guys are all good now? Okay, we have some handouts on the table that you guys signed up on, and feel free to take. And we have, I believe we have a post survey just to say how me and Franny did, how much you learned, or if there's anything else you guys wanted to learn, you can write it down. If you have any additional questions, you can write down on there and leave your email or phone number, and I can answer it when I get back to the office and call you guys back.
I haven't got bitten, so I don't know. Is it on? No, just started. I know what the trick to it. I'm ready for rain. They're ready for